The seventh law of achievement is the law of preparation, which says that perfect performance is preceded by painstaking preparation. The mark of the serious person and the real professional in any field is that he takes more time to prepare thoroughly than the average person does. The non-serious person or the non-professional always attempts to bluff or to wing it. He tries to get by with a minimum of preparation without realizing that his level of preparation is immediately evident to everyone around him. One of my favorite quotes, which has had a powerful effect in shaping my life and attitude, comes from Abraham Lincoln, who said, "I shall study and prepare myself, and someday my chance will come." He recognized, as do all great men and women, that painstaking and thorough preparation is the key to the future. The first part of the law of preparation is simply, do your homework. It's the details that trip you up every single time. My friend Joel Weldon gave a wonderful talk a few years ago entitled Elephants Don't Bite. The essence of his talk was that it was the mosquitoes of life, the small things that tend to be ignored, that cause you the most trouble. No one ever gets bitten by an elephant, but people get bitten by mosquitoes all the time. His message was that if you want to get to the top of your field, you must be fastidious about the little things because, as a minister once said, good is in the details. The second part of the law of preparation comes from the business writer Peter Drucker, who wrote that action without thinking is the cause of every failure. Action without taking the time to think through the details and their possible ramifications seems to be the underlying cause of most failure in life. The opposite of this statement is that action preceded by thinking and planning is the cause of virtually every success. This doesn't mean that you'll automatically be successful if you plan thoroughly in advance, but it means that you must almost inevitably fail if you don't do it. The third part of this law comes from Benjamin Trigo, who said that if it's not worth doing, it's not worth doing well. Details are important, it's true, but you need to think through the value and importance of each detail before you overcommit your time and your resources to them. Each law of achievement is the law of forced efficiency. This law states that the more things you have to do in a limited space of time, the more you will be forced to work on your most important tasks. This is another way of saying that there's never enough time to do everything, but there's always enough time to do the important things. The more you take on, the more likely it is that you'll be forced to think, analyze, and evaluate your tasks and activities in such a way that you spend your limited mental and physical energy on just those tasks that are the most vital to your success. There are two parts of the law of forced efficiency. The first is that there will never be enough time to do everything that you have to do. The busier and more successful you become, the more true this statement will be. If you have lots of time to do your work, it means that you are underemployed, underpaid, and well along on the low road to frustration and disappointment in your career. The fact is that you can only discover how much you can do by trying to do too much. You can only find out how far you can go by going too far. You discover how much you can take on by taking on more than you can do. The second part of this law, which is the key question in personal efficiency and time management, is to ask yourself continually, what is the most valuable use of my time right now? Always keep yourself on track and focus on your most important responsibilities by asking yourself hour by hour and minute by minute, what is the most valuable use of my time right now? The ninth law of achievement is the law of decision. It says that every great leap forward in life is preceded by a clear decision that leads to action. All high-achieving men and women tend to be very decisive in their thoughts and actions. They think things through carefully. They decide exactly what they want, and then they make clear decisions and take action to make those decisions a reality. In your life, you've had several experiences where you've been unsure of what to do, and you've resolved your dilemma by making a clear decision one way or the other. In looking back, you'll probably find that that was the turning point for you and that everything else flowed from the decision. The ability to make good decisions is one of the most critical thinking skills of the successful man or woman. In fact, in one study, the careers of managers who were promoted rapidly were compared to those of managers who were passed over for promotion. Researchers found the one distinguishing behavior between the two groups was that the more rapidly promoted managers were more decisive in doing their jobs. The interesting fact that came out of this study was that given written tests with hypothetical problems, Both sets of managers were equally accurate in their answers. The more successful managers, however, on the job, were willing to make decisions based on their answers, while the unsuccessful managers were afraid to, for fear of making a mistake. The very act of being decisive can be the critical factor that enables you to take command of a situation and move ahead more rapidly. We found that high achievers are not necessarily those who make the right decisions every time, but they're those people who make their decisions right. They accept feedback and self-correct. They take in new information and change if necessary, but they are always decisive, always moving forward, never wishy-washy or vacillating in their attitudes toward life. The first part of the law of decision is simply this: act boldly and unseen forces will come to your aid. It seems that when you grasp a situation and step forward courageously, a series of unseen forces, most of which are explained by the laws in this program, seem to emerge and help you achieve your goals. Your very willingness to take action rather than to delay or procrastinate seems to bring universal powers to your assistance. The second part of the law of decision comes from the wonderful book by Dorothea Brande entitled Wake Up and Live. She wrote that the discovery that changed her life and the lives of thousands of others who heard it from her in her public talks was the simple success formula that says, act as if it were impossible to fail, and it shall be when you imagine that your success will be guaranteed if you simply take action and you act on that premise. A whole series of forces begins to support you and move you toward the attainment of your desires. So when in doubt, act as if it were impossible to fail and push forward. The third part of the law of decision comes from the famous Nike commercial, which says, just do it. These three words really summarize one of the great formulas for success. Just do it. So be decisive, go for it, take a chance, act boldly, and unseen forces will come to your aid. The 10th law of achievement is the law of creativity. It says that every advance in human life begins with an idea in the mind of one person. It's ideas that you generate that enable you to solve your problems, overcome your obstacles, and achieve your goals. Ideas are the keys to the future. It's hardly possible for you to achieve anything of note except to the degree to which you think and do something new and different from what's been done before. All it takes is a small innovation to lay the foundation for a fortune and great success in life. The first part of this law says that your ability to generate constructive ideas is, to all intents and purposes, unlimited. Therefore, your future potential is unlimited as well. Ideas are a mode of transportation, a vehicle that you can use to take you from wherever you are to wherever you want to go. Your job is simply to generate as many ideas as possible. Evaluate them carefully against your current goals, and then take action on them. There's virtually no obstacle in life that you cannot overcome with the power of thought, with the power of creative concentration, with the power of ideas. The second part of this law comes from Napoleon Hill, who said in his famous words, "Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve." Your mind is structured in such a way that you cannot at the same time have an idea and not also have the ability to bring that idea into reality. The very existence of an idea in your conscious mind means that you have within you and around you the capacity to achieve it. The only question you have to ask yourself is, how badly do I want it? The third part of the law of creativity comes from Napoleon Bonaparte, who said, "Imagination rules the world." Everything you see around you is the result of what was initially a single idea in the mind of a single person. Our entire world started from thought brought into reality. The fourth and final part of this law comes from Einstein, who said simply that imagination is more important than facts. There have been countless occasions in your life, in the lives of others, where the facts say one thing, but your ideas and created energy enable you to do something completely different. Virtually every important turning point in your life and human destiny begins with an idea that causes you to see things differently and to take action that you would not have taken in the absence of that idea. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whatever your situation, you have the creative capacity in the form of an infinite ability to generate ideas to solve any problem and achieve any goal. It's up to you. The 11th law of achievement is the law of flexibility. This law says that success is best achieved when you are clear about the goal, but flexible about the process of getting there. This is one of the most important conclusions ever reached by high-achieving men and women. When you set a clear goal for yourself and make a plan, you usually have a fairly good idea of what it is you have to do to get whatever it is you want to achieve. However, 1,000 things can change, each of which will require alterations in your plan of action. The most optimistic and enthusiastic people are those who are open, flexible, and fluid in the face of the inevitable and the myriad changes required as they move toward the accomplishment of something that's important to them. The first part of the law of flexibility is that the experience of resistance and frustration is often an indication that you're doing the wrong thing. Whenever you feel that you're butting your head against the wall and not making progress, step back and re-examine your plan. Be sure that the goal you're working toward is still the goal that you desire, and then sit down and make better plans. Take the mentality of a computer programmer. When he designs a computer program, he knows that the program will be full of defects when it's completed. No computer program ever works perfectly the first time it's tried. However, the programmer accepts this as a factor of life and then begins to go back through the program step by step to remove the defects. When the programmer is finished, the program will operate perfectly. By the same token, whenever your plans don't seem to be bearing fruit, look in the mirror, re-examine your plans, and redesign them until you have faultless plans that work and move you forward without anxiety and frustration. The second part of the law of flexibility is that you are only as free in life as the number of developed options that you have available to you. Your freedom and happiness are largely determined by the number of alternatives that you've developed in case your first choice doesn't work. The more thoroughly developed your options and alternatives, the more freedom you have. If one course of action doesn't develop as you expected, you're fully prepared to switch. In my courses on decision making, once the decision has been reached, I encourage the participants to ask the question, what else would be a good decision in this situation? The very exercise of developing alternatives enables you to think more clearly and can be a major contributor to the level of achievement that you experience. The third part of the law of flexibility is that crisis is change trying to take place. Whenever you're experiencing a crisis or difficulty of any kind, stand back for a moment and ask yourself what change is trying to take place that is being signaled to me as a result of this crisis. You may be having a crisis in your work, in your personal relationships, with your health, or with your business. In almost every case, A crisis is an indication that something is wrong and that pursuing the same course would be an unwise thing to do. So, what is the change that's trying to take place in your life right now? The fourth part of the law of flexibility is that errant assumptions lie at the root of every failure. Almost every failure you have will be based on an incorrect assumption that you've made and accepted without question. It's always a good exercise to clarify your assumptions, especially when things aren't going as well as you want. So what are your assumptions? First, what are your explicit assumptions, the ones you're clearly aware of? And second, what are your implicit assumptions, the ones that you may be accepting without question? What if your most cherished assumptions were wrong? What changes would this dictate? How flexible and fluid would you have to be to redirect your course of action if something that you're assuming as a fact turned out not to be true at all? Whenever you make the right decisions and you achieve your goals on schedule, it's always because the assumptions that you were operating on turned out to be true. Many people go broke in starting their own businesses because they assume that there's a big enough market for the product or service that they propose to offer. They also assume that customers will switch from their current suppliers to them for no other reason than that they are in the marketplace. They sometimes assume that they have the talents and skills and abilities to provide the product or service at a competitive price and still make a profit. Well, your willingness to question your assumptions, to test your assumptions against reality, with the willingness to accept the possibility that you could be wrong, is the kind of attitude that will ultimately lead you to great achievement. Flexibility is considered to be perhaps the most important single quality necessary for success in our competitive society for the rest of the century and into the century beyond. The 12th law of achievement is the law of persistence. This law says that your ability to persist in the face of setbacks and disappointments is your measure of your belief in yourself and your ability to succeed. Persistence is the iron quality of success. Sometimes your willingness to persist is your greatest asset and is the quality that separates you from everyone else. Sometimes the strongest thing you have going for you is your ability to persist longer than anyone else. The first part of the law of persistence is simply that persistence is self-discipline in action. It's when you face the inevitable setbacks and delays and disappointments and temporary defeats, and you continue to persist in spite of them, that you demonstrate to yourself and others that you have the character of self-discipline and self-mastery that is absolutely indispensable for the great success that you desire. Churchill summarized the second part of the law of persistence when he said, "Never give up, never, never give up." Churchill believed, and he proved throughout his lifetime, that bulldog tenacity in the face of what appeared to be overwhelming defeat was often the critical quality that turned that defeat into victory.